I'm Sarah Gove with the Pierce County Chamber of Commerce. I started here about a year ago, next month in May. Before that, I worked as news editor for the Blackshear Times, and then made the move to the world of chamber work and workforce development and business supports, and I'm loving it.
Well, that's great. I'm glad to have you. So I heard about your P3 program that you're doing there in Pierce County. Can you tell me a little bit about that program?
Sure. P3 stands for Pierce Pathway Portal. And basically, the objective is to connect our high school students, particularly the ones that are about to graduate, with possible workforce solutions here in Pierce County. One thing as a chamber director that I hear constantly from our members is we need employees, we need employees. And that's just gotten worse since COVID. It's great to see that our unemployment numbers are so low, but that also means there's not a pool there to fill those gaps for my chamber members. So we started looking at what can we do? We're a small community. Do we try to recruit from outside? And then in an industrial development authority meeting one day, our Georgia Power manager, Bobby Tippins, just mentioned, he said, we graduate like more than 200 kids every year. That's our workforce. You know, maybe a quarter of them are going to college, some are going to the military, but the majority of those graduating seniors are staying right here, and they need a job, and our companies need employees. So the way Pierce Pathway Portal works, it's a collaborative between our high school, particularly the work-based learning program there, and our industrial development authority. Our director, Matt Carter, and I work out of the same office, so that works really well as far as making this program work. And then the Chamber of Commerce is the third partner there. Our committee is pretty small. It's me and the work-based learning director, Melena Wetherington, and then Matt Carter. So we coordinate tours for our CTAE classes, which I'll back up. CTAE stands for Career, Technology, Agriculture, and Education. And those are pathways at the high school. When kids complete 3 pathway classes, for instance, welding, if they do 3 pathway welding classes, then they graduate high school with a certification of some sort in that particular pathway. I mentioned welding because that was kind of our pilot. So what we try to do is get each pathway to tour at least 2 industries where that particular skill is utilized, and then also into a post-secondary tour. So our pilot for P3 was to take our welding pathway kids on 2 industry tours and a post-secondary tour. We completed that model this semester for the welding kids. They went to composite research and learned how welding is used to make boats. They went to steel and metal systems and learned how welding is used to make storage buildings. And then they toured the welding lab at Coastal Pines Technical College. With this particular skill, some of these kids could leave the high school with their welding certification and go right into a job. But there may be some welding jobs that require a little bit more training, technical ability. And so those kids would go on to CPTC for some more post-secondary training in welding. We want them to see the pathway from their pathway class at the high school to the job that they can have right here in Pierce County when they graduate.
So you had mentioned that the welding was your first program that you've completed. When did you start this program?
We started this year. So we started organizing
the school year?
In January. Yes, January. The calendar year.
January 2022.
We started organizing the idea in January. We started touring in February. So we've done the welding tours. We've moved on to auto mechanics. And so the auto mechanics group has toured a body shop. And then we're working on coordinating their next tour at basically like a tire shop. And so you're in Pierce County, which includes Patterson and Blackshear. Yes.
So are you sticking with tours just there in Pierce County for employers? So
far we are. We have a good, healthy bit of industry here that coordinates well with the pathways that we have at the high school.
And I think that's so important, because if you're having pathways of, avionics, but there's no airport that's within your
Right.
region, then you're going to lose people. So I think
Right.
that's really smart the way you've coordinated that with the employers, with the pathways, and that the high school is looking at the pathways that are
I was
needed.
going to say, our school system has done a great job of
Yes.
coordinating and offering pathway classes that connect with the industry here in Pierce County.
And, it's so important because, we're in rural South Georgia, and we have such an issue with students going off to college and then never coming back.
Yes.
And so that's really important to show them that there is a way to get your education here and get a good paying job here.
It takes a whole lot more effort to recruit kids back to Pierce County, and a whole lot more money than if they just stay here when they graduate.
And I think that I just applaud you for putting this program together, because there's been so much talk about it, but you really hit the ground running, especially to start in January, get moving in February, and you've already completed one of the pathways. So to me, you're really doing that hands-on work to connect those employers with the education. And so just real quick, how many employers had never hired kids straight out of school? How many employers have you seen that this is all kind of new of getting involved in the education system?
I think that most are at least familiar with the concept. Our work-based learning program is pretty robust, and they do a good job of even placing kids while they're still in high school in part-time positions at, say, Ace Hardware or Tire and Wheel, different places here in town where they can still hire them at that younger age level.
Okay. Yeah. So when you decided to get this program started, who was the first person that you reached out to? Was it Miss Weatherington at the high school?
Yeah, Matt Carter and Milena Weatherington and I met to start talking about how to revamp Leadership Pierce, our civic development program. COVID really had put the brakes on that. And so while we were trying to figure out how to get that started again, we kind of stumbled on this idea of a workforce development program based on what his board member, Bobby, had said about the kids were graduating every year. So we've learned if we keep the model simple, it's a lot easier to implement.
I love that. And that's a really good point, because so many people feel like, I want to do this thing, but it's such a big idea. I don't know how to even get it started. But you're just keeping it simple. You're connecting the employers with the schools and getting those tours. So tell me a little bit about the tour. How does that work? Do you put them on a bus all at once and take them to the employers?
We do, but it's just by that particular pathway class. So the most kids we've had so far has been maybe 15.
Okay.
The small group setting works really good. These kids know what they're getting into. They know this is about welding because they're going on the tour during their welding class time.
Okay.
It's not like loading up all the sophomores and saying, hey, we're going to take you on a tour of the boat plant in Pierce County. Half of them could care less,
Right.
So it's very targeted. We don't have behavior issues. These kids are interested. They know why they're there. So that really helps. But yes, we put them on a bus. Matt and I usually meet the bus at the tour location. The only request that we have for our industries is that they make it hands-on. Please try to put on some sort of demonstration. We don't just want to walk them through your facility. We want them to see what you do. And if possible, if there's any way for them to participate in that process.
Excellent. That's so great, because it's true, that hands-on experience really makes a difference. And being able to have those smaller groups so that you can, answer questions easily and everybody can hear. So how often are they visiting local industry?
I would say we're getting in a couple tours a month.
Okay.
But they're not all the same. So like it might be welding, still in metal systems, for example, we took a welding group there. A few weeks later, we took the engineering class there. And so it was a whole different kind of tour. The engineering class, that was really cool to see the different components that they make themselves, and then talking about the patent process and how do they get that. Yeah, it was really fascinating.
And that's great for a business group to hear, patenting those items that go into building. I had no idea that they did that. So that's great. So obviously this is just, you've just began in January. What are your goals for the coming school year?
We hope to expand this out to where we're hitting every pathway class. I'm not sure on this number, but I think we're offering around 10 pathway classes at the high school right now.
Okay.
So we started with ones that we felt we had the most industry connections for. So welding, auto mechanics, we'll expand that out to ag mechanics. We'll be hitting forestry and timber because timber industry is big in Pierce County.
Right.
We will probably incorporate our county extension agent and our FFA advisor when we start looking at some of the ag components,
right,
for tours and letting them help us set some of that up.
Okay.
So we did one engineering class tour. We've got to get the rest of those kids toured on another spot. And then kind of as a capstone for this, we would like to bring industries back in for some mock interviews for our senior class. So once they've completed that third pathway, let's sit down. You've toured the industry, you've completed the pathway, you've seen what your post-secondary options are. Now let's get you practicing interviewing for this potential job with somebody that might actually be hiring you.
That's fantastic. So I've got a question about, what we do at the Regional Commission is implement the federal program Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or WIOA. And so that is really hitting kids that maybe have barriers to employment and maybe not be in the work-based learning program. So how can you, and are you interested in expanding that to kids that are not in the work-based learning program?
Absolutely. Let me clarify. You don't have to be in the work-based learning program to be in a CTAE class.
Okay.
So not all the kids that are going on these tours are already employed somewhere.
Right.
They're just interested in welding. And so that's why they're in that pathway class.
I appreciate that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So they're not necessarily in work-based learning in that program, because I know that in the work-based learning program, there's stringent guidelines to be involved in that.
Yes. So she's our coordinator for this project for P3, but we're working hand in hand with all of those CTAE teachers.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Because I think that's so important, because kids that maybe not have taken the SAT or ACT, and so they don't have those plans to go to post-secondary because they just don't know that that's an option maybe. But there are options for work, and it's good work, and it's good pay.
Good paying work.
Can you talk about that a little bit? What are your average pay rates for these tours that you've taken the kids on?
That might be more of a question for Matt Carter.
Okay.
But I know that we have seen in the range of $20, $23 an hour. Some of these places, 15. You're seeing that a lot now just for the fast food industry.
Right.
So the lack of workforce and inflation is really driving that up. It's a good time to go to work.
That is a great tagline. It's a great time to go to work. And what you're doing is really helping those kids see those opportunities, and I really appreciate that. So just to kind of finish up this interview, is there any success story? I know it's an early on and it's only April, but have you seen anything that you can kind of speak to about kids that have changed their mind about what they're going to do, about going to post-secondary or interviewing with a company?
I can't yet. I don't really have testimonials at this point, but it is refreshing to see how engaged they are, and just to see the connections that they're making between what they're learning in the classroom and their possible future, that it can all happen right here. We did have a life lesson moment, which is invaluable, when we were at one of the body shops with the auto mechanics kids. They had just brought in a car that was totaled from a really bad accident the weekend before, with drug involvement and some other things. So the kids got to see that. They got to talk about impact, and what your life decisions have to do with your whole future. Yeah. And
that gave me chills.
Yeah, there's a component there that you just can't put a dollar value on.
Right.
And, so we're grateful for that.
Well, Sarah, I'm so grateful for the time that you've given to this program that you've started with the school and with Matt Carter. And I'm so excited to interview you again and find out what those successes are and how you've expanded the program. So thank you for taking this time. Is there anything you'd like to say in closing?
Thank you for the opportunity to talk about P3. It really is a collaborative effort, and we're just so excited to see it taking off. And I hope to be able to follow up with you with more information on some of these other pathways. And then as these kids graduate next year, be able to give you some stories of real life connections that have been made.